Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Faisla 2011, and I'm your host Shazad Haq. In Faisla 2011, we are focusing on the Ontario provincial elections, which will be held on October 6th. Our guest today is a very busy person. She's traveling all across Ontario to visit Ontarians and to introduce herself and to rally their troops. She is the first female NDP leader of Ontario, and if on October 6th her party does get elected and win the elections, she will be the first female Premier of Ontario. And her name is Andrea Harrath. Welcome to the show, Andrea.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the invitation.
Andrea, before we get into the platforms and the policies,
Sure.
I want to talk about Jack Layton a little bit.
Okay.
A couple of weeks ago, he passed away. Mm-hmm. He was loved and respected by all. Can you share with us some of your personal memories with him?
Sure, I would be happy to do that. I think the first thing I would like to do is say Eid Mubarak to all of the viewers, just coming off of the celebration of the end of Ramadan, and was happy to participate. You were there as well at the event on Sunday. Was it Sunday?
Yeah, just a couple of days ago.
A couple of days ago, exactly. And so part of my speech at that Eid was a conversation about Jack, because we've seen in the last week since Jack's passing an outpouring of grief, of appreciation, of thanks for all the work that he's done. And as someone who knew Jack, fairly well, he's certainly going to be missed in many, many ways. Of course, as you mentioned, we are into a provincial election campaign. And Jack had always been very open with me, always very generous with his time, with his advice, with his suggestions. And I'm going to miss not being able to pick up the phone and get his insights. He's got a wealth of experience, or had a wealth of experience, as you know, and was always very generous with that. And so I'm going to miss not only his mentorship, but his friendship, his generosity, and of course the very positive energy that Jack brought to not only to politics, but his just sheer energy, his joie de vivre, his joy of life was something that was really fantastic, and I think inspired not only New Democrats but Canadians during that last federal election.
That's for sure.
Andrea, now this outpour of grief, love for Jack Layton, his life, his policies, his struggles, do you think will translate into a support across Ontario when it comes to the day of election, October 6th? Are you counting on that?
Ali, what I'm counting on is getting a chance to show the people of Ontario that the NDP has a platform, has an agenda that puts people first. This is something, of course, that Jack did as well in the federal campaign. I don't think that we rely on the loss of Jack and the mourning that people showed to translate necessarily into the campaign. But what I do know is that Jack was able to create a sense of inspiration and a sense of energy. And in his last letter to Canadians, as well as during the service, if any of you watched the service, Jack basically gave us all a challenge, right? He handed off the torch to New Democrats and to Canadians from coast to coast to coast to do things differently, to act with generosity, to act with hope and with love and with optimism, and those are values I think that many of us hold, and we just need to make sure we're living those values more. So I'm looking forward to a campaign that's going to be a positive one from my perspective, where I put our ideas out there, where I show the people of Ontario that New Democrats want to make life better for everyday families. We can get into the details of that a little bit later on in the conversation. But again, I do appreciate and I feel like everyone the great loss from Jack's passing. But I think the thing that it brings to our campaign is just a reinvigoration and a call to action, if you will, of our volunteers. And I think the people of Ontario are the ones that are going to decide on October 6th what kind of Ontario they want by the choice they make at the ballot box.
So, Andrea, the polls are showing that Conservatives and the Liberals they're getting closer in polls. Also, the polls are showing that people do want a change. Mm-hmm. Why would they vote for you as opposed to Tim Hudak? Mm-hmm. Tell us, why should they vote for you?
Well, I think you're right. I'm hearing everywhere across Ontario, people have been telling me for some time that they want to see some change. They're pretty tired of a government that's pretty much ignored their top concerns, their biggest problems. A government that's made life less affordable for people, that hasn't really done much in terms of job creation, who's actually not done what needs to be done to make sure that healthcare is available for people where they need it and when they need it. So these are the kinds of things that people talk about to me when they discuss the fact that they want to see some change. And I think when we look at what choice people have in this election for change, they have two very different parties to look at. The NDP is a party that has made a commitment to put people first for a change. So our platform is very much about solving some of the problems, the everyday problems that Ontario families are facing. That includes getting life more affordable. We can do that by taking the HST off of home heating, take it off of hydro, start taking it off of gasoline. We're going to cap gas prices in the province so that people are not seeing the fluctuation of prices that we see right now with gasoline. We're going to freeze transit fares because we're going to work with municipalities to take off half of their cost of their operating of their transit systems in exchange for a freeze in fares for 4 years. So these things will all make life more affordable for Ontario families. We're also going to do some important work around job creation. I mean, right now, the job creation plan that both the Conservatives and the Liberals favor is across-the-board corporate tax cuts. We don't see that as the solution. In fact, we know that it doesn't work. Across-the-board corporate tax cuts do not create jobs. There is no evidence that that's the case. And you just have to look at the company that receives the tax cut. Maybe it's a bank, maybe it's an insurance company. Well, there's no reason for them to create jobs necessarily. There's no requirement for them to create jobs. They could if they want to, or they could put that money aside in cash reserves, which is what most of them are doing, or they could ship jobs to other parts of the world because there's no targeting, there's no strings attached to that blank check. So what we would do instead is we would work with and invest with the companies that are actually creating jobs through investment tax credits. If you're creating jobs, if you're investing in plant and equipment, technology, if you're training your workers on the job, these are the kinds of incentives that we will provide to work with business to create those kind of jobs. We also want to see a Buy Ontario policy put in place. When we have big infrastructure projects, you remember not too long ago the TTC was going to refurbish its trains. They set that contract out to tender, and the company that bid from Ontario Northland, was $2 million higher than the company that won the contract in Quebec. It was a $122 million contract. So for $2 million, we could have kept over 100 jobs in Ontario. That $2 million difference would have made a huge impact on the economy in North Bay, where this company operates, and instead, North Bay is going to lose those jobs to Quebec. If we are going to be using tax dollars on infrastructure of any kind, we should be making sure that it's putting Ontario workers to work. Our tax dollars should put our workers to work, and we can do that with a Buy Ontario policy. And the last thing I'll say about our job plans, and we have others as well, is we believe that the natural resources that we are blessed with in the province of Ontario should be putting Ontario workers to work, right? So we have minerals that are pulled up out of the ground, we have forests that are harvested in Northern Ontario, and those raw minerals and those raw logs are shipped across borders and shipped out of the country for processing. We think that the processing of those materials needs to happen in Ontario, needs to be done by Ontario workers to get our people back to work.
Andrea, people are telling the pollsters three major issues, what they're going to look at when they're going to vote on October 6th.
Okay.
Healthcare, economy, education. People are giving good points, good marks to Mr. McGuinty's government on education and healthcare. Now that only leaves economy, and we know traditionally conservatives are considered to be better managers of economy. So going back to Shehzad's question, if somebody wants to replace Mr. McGuinty as premier, why would they vote for Andrea Horwath, leader of the NDP, when we are reminded of Ray Days whenever it comes to NDP?
So Andrea, we're going to take a short break. We'll be right back.